Hey there, my name is Silas. Welcome to this yin practice in which we will focus on poses that speak to the hips, but also in the idea of traditional Chinese medicine and yin yoga, they will speak to the season of spring, this time where there's fresh enthusiasm and energy coming back into the cycle. And you notice this doesn't have to be only practice when it's actually spring outside, but it's more this idea of the spring for you right now. So it's like newfound energy. If you have a block or some other props, get them ready and then find your way into a wild like a child's pose. You can take the knees mat width, distance apart, and then big toes together to touch, letting the hips sink towards the heels. And then if you have a block or a prop, you can place it underneath the forehead as you melt the chest down, and then letting the arms rest. Forearms down, the eyes closed. And softening the face, the hips, and dropping into the breath. Directing the breath all the way into the hips, breathing into the lower belly. Feeling the gentle movement of the ribs and the belly on your thighs. And taking a moment to plant a seed, an intention for your practice. A seed of awareness, of presence. And softening the shoulders, the arms and hands. Continue to follow the breath. Been here for a minute. Maybe you want to take the block out underneath your forehead and come a little bit deeper into the pose. Maybe the hands walk forward a little bit. And sometimes when we come to yoga practice and we get asked to plant a seed of an intention, we sometimes don't really know what or where to start, because the opportunities are endless. You can set an intention for anything, but not everything at the same time. This is where we oftentimes get lost in projects or ideas about what we want to do in life. We can be anything, but not everything. We don't have the energy and the enthusiasm to do it all. So when it comes to yoga practice, really be simple. An intention to follow the breath just for 20 minutes. Or an intention to notice sensations as they change. To feel the earth. And to feel yourself in response to it. And then take one more full breath in. And a full breath out. And the next inhale, begin to shift forward through all fours. And we're going to come into a Sphinx pose next. You can bring the forearms next to one another, elbows underneath the shoulders. And then untuck the toes, the feet can be wide apart. And if you have a block or prop, you can place it underneath the forehead as you find the Sphinx pose. And breathing into the belly, noticing the residue of the child's pose and how this opening feels now, the whole body moves in the opposite direction. The front of the hips are opening. So we can soften the hands and the face. Nurturing your seed with the full awareness that you have in this moment. Softening the face and jaw. Taking another full breath in and a full breath out. And then from here we're going to just shift back into an all-fourth position. Block and come to the side. You can first lower the chest down to bring the hands back and then press back into all fours. And as you come here, allow the hips to move around. You can draw little circles with the hips towards one direction, really letting them pop out towards the right and left, and changing directions. And then come back towards center. From here, bring the right knee behind the right wrist, and then find a pigeon pose, a sleeping swan, or a deer pose. There's 3 names in quick succession. So either the hips sink down, you can take a block to place underneath the right hip, and then knee toe the left foot back and melt forward. This is a sleeping swan or sleeping pigeon setup. You can stay with this, or if you want to play with a deer pose and you're more, for example, if you're tighter in the hips, you might want to bring the right hip all the way down and then bring the right shin parallel to the front of the mat and the left shin parallel with the side of the mat. So you have this 90-90 setup in your knees, what is called a deer pose, and then you fold forward and down. And you can use the block underneath the forehead. And softening through the hips. I actually prefer this setup in comparison to the sleeping swan or pigeon. But at the end of the day, you have to make your own choices. How does something feel to you? Does it feel right, or do you have to adjust? Really being your own master at the end of the day, taking instructions in a yoga practice more like suggestions. Suggestions through which you can nourish your seed of intention. Instructions are like little ideas, little sprinkles of fresh water for the plant or the seed that is the intention of yourself at the end of the day. And you're nourishing, you're being playful, and you notice sometimes for one person it's the suggestion or the instruction is fertilizer, for someone else it's poison because the plant hasn't grown enough or has ripened enough to be able to withstand certain poses. And breathe into the right outer hip as you take another 4 rounds of breath. And then last breath in. Full breath out. And then let yourself come back up and just bring the upper body up. I'm going to take a double pigeon. So from here, let the right hip come all the way into the earth. Bring the left leg, swing it around. And now from here, there are a few options you can take. You can either take the left shin in front of the right, and then from here fold forward and down, maybe taking a block underneath the forehead, the arms reaching forward, but then softening the elbows. You can stay with this. If you have more space in the hips, what some of us have, I, for example, don't, but I still show you if you have more space. So you can come back upright, hands can be behind you to start with. Then you place the left ankle over the right knee, and you're trying to stagger the shins on top of one another. And for some of us, it might look just like it looks for me right here. So you're quite upright, and you can't go anywhere, but you stay here. You breathe, you're upright. Some of you might have the shins right on top of one another, and you can fold forward as well. So take the most accessible version of this. I'm going to go back to the double pigeon with the shins in front of one another. And then the hands walk forward, the forehead melts down. And breathe into the hips. Softening the face. We're not here for long, just a brief minute or so. And take another full breath in. And a full breath out. And then slowly bring yourself back up. We're just going to rebound in Shavasana, block to the side, the legs extend down the mat, and you just lay onto your back. And the hands by your side. Flexing the ankles for a moment and then releasing the feet. Noticing the lower back, the outer hips. The sensations and the way the blood flow feels, temperature, residue of the poses you did. Softening your arms. 2 more rounds of breath. Take another full breath in. And a full breath out. And then bend one knee at a time. Roll over towards one side. Using the top hand to press yourself back up. And we're just going to take the other side. So as you come into an upright position, you can bring the left shin parallel towards the front of the mat. And then go for either the sleeping swan or the deer pose. Maybe taking the block underneath the left hip if you go for the sleeping swan. Otherwise you have the 90-90 setup and you fold forward and melt in. So notice what worked on the first side or what didn't work on the first side, and then settle into the second side with the information and intelligence that you gathered from the first side. It's like you are a spy in your own body, and you try to gather secret intelligence about what it can and can't do, about what you need, and then you feed yourself that intelligence, those informations that you receive over lifetimes of practice, and you apply them to whatever you're doing next. Nurturing this process, this journey. This seed that you ultimately trying to plant, and then it might grow into a beautiful flower or a big steady tree. You can plant anything but not everything. Taking any little adjustments along the way, if you have the feeling you've gotten more space after a few moments. Maybe finding a deeper version of the pose or backing out. Sometimes we go for sleeping swan, but we notice that today we should have really taken the deer pose. And then you adjust. Just to take another few moments in the most intelligent pose that you can find for yourself. And once you've found that most intelligent pose, all you can do is breathe and pay attention to how the breath feels in the pose. Taking 3 more rounds of breath. And then slowly helping yourself come up with the upper body. Take the double-legged pigeon on the second side, so the right leg will swing around. You can either place the shins in front of one another and parallel to the front edge of your mat, or if you played with the right ankle on the left knee, the left ankle on the right knee on the previous side, you just change it here, placing the right ankle over the left knee, maybe staying upright, or if you have the space to fold forward from here, go ahead, letting the left knee melt towards the earth. And sometimes there's also value in staying here even if you can't fold forward. So find the shape. I'm going to go to the shins in front of one another. And also with the shins in front of one another, some of us might not be able to fold forward. But then you acknowledge that. You acknowledge whatever intel you get, and you gather it enthusiastically, mindfully. And then you try to use the intel to nurture the seed. And we're here for just another minute. Really stretching out the edges of your breath, breathing into the hips, the lower back. And taking a final deep breath in, and a full breath out. And with the help of your hands, slowly bring yourself up. Block to the side, and we're going to find Shavasana again to rebound and to stay. So let the feet come hip width or mat width distance apart, and then as you let the chest come down, take your hands, interlace the fingers, bring them behind the base of the head, And then let the head be heavy in your palms. Let the elbows point towards the ceiling. And you take a moment to elongate the back of the neck as you slowly place the head onto the earth. And then let the arms rest by your side as you find Shavasana. And flexing the ankles. And then softening the ankles. Allowing the legs to be heavy. Observing any residue in your hips and legs. Softening the face, the jaw and tongue. Allowing the breath to flow freely. Let your awareness come into the fingertips. Wiggle the fingers. And then bend your elbows, bringing the hands onto the heart. They can be on top of one another, or one hand on the right side of your chest, one hand on the left side. And taking a moment to acknowledge your heart. And planting a seed into the heart. A seed of kindness and compassion towards yourself, your body, your mind, and breath, but also towards others and everything that happens and exists in between. And from here I will leave you. You can stay just another moment, closing the practice in a way that is meaningful to you. Thank you so much for your time, your presence, and your awareness to plant seeds of intention. You can plant anything but not everything. Thank you so much. Namaste.